High over the roof above you, far past the streetlights and the thin haze of weather and the last of the clouds, a single point of blue-white light is burning in the shoulder of winter. It does not flicker the way the small stars flicker. It holds steady and cool and bright, the colour of a flame turned all the way up, the colour the heart of a candle would be if a candle could grow as large as a sun, and then larger still. You have seen this light 1,000 times without ever knowing its name. It is one of the blue supergiants, the hottest, the brightest, the heaviest stars the night has to offer. And from where you lie, warm beneath your blanket, it is nothing more than a calm blue spark resting in the dark, harmless and lovely and impossibly far. That spark left its star long before tonight. The light arriving at your window now set out across the emptiness, while the world below was still very young, and it has been travelling faithfully every second since, crossing distances no road could ever measure, only to settle at last against the back of your eye. There is no hurry left in it. Whatever fierce thing the star is doing it far away, on the other side of an ocean of space so wide that the violence can never reach you, and only the beauty can. From here it is simply blue, simply still, simply there, like a small lamp left burning in a window across a valley too wide to walk in a lifetime. You do not need to hold on to any of this. There is nothing to study tonight, nothing the morning will ask you to recall. Let these wonders move through you the way a slow tide moves over the smooth stones of a shore, touching each one, lifting it for a moment, then sliding gently back out to sea. Some of what you hear will follow you down into sleep. Some will dissolve before the light comes, and that is exactly as it should be. What stays, stays. What drifts away was never yours to keep. So let your shoulders grow heavy against the mattress. Let your jaw unclench. Let your breathing find its own slow rhythm, with no help from you at all. The stars overhead have been burning for ages without your attention, and they will keep on burning long after your eyes have closed, and for these few hours there is nothing for you to do but rest while the universe goes quietly about its work. Begin with the colour, because the colour is the first thing anyone notices. A blue supergiant glows blue-white for a reason as old as light itself. Every warm thing in the universe gives off a glow, and the hotter that thing becomes, the more its glow shifts away from red and toward blue. The dull orange of dying embers, the yellow of a kitchen flame, the white blue of a welder's arc. These are not different kinds of fire so much as the same fire at different heats. A blue supergiant sits at the far end of that scale, its surface running so hot that the light it pours out is pushed all the way to the cool, electric blue of the very hottest things there are. The colour you see is not paint, and it is not a trick of the air. It is temperature made visible, written across the sky in a single shade. To learn to read that shade is to learn the heat of a thing from billions of miles away, simply by the colour it cannot help but show. The stars run along a whole quiet ladder of colour, and blue stands at the very top of it. Astronomers long ago sorted the stars into a sequence by their heat, from the coolest deep red embers up through orange and yellow and white to the hottest blue-white fires, each colour a faithful sign of a surface temperature. The sun sits comfortably in the gentle middle of that ladder, a steady yellow-white. The blue supergiants blaze at its uppermost rung, the hottest and the bluest of all, the head of the long line. So the colours scattered across the night are not random at all. They are a temperature chart written in light, every star wearing the exact shade its heat demands, and the blue ones burning at the very crown of the scale. The temperature behind that shade is difficult to truly imagine. The surface of your own sun, the star you have known your whole life, burns at around 10,000 degrees on the everyday scale. A blue supergiant can hold a surface anywhere from that same searing heat up to nearly 50,000 degrees, and the very hottest of them climb higher still. Stand on the surface of such a star, though of course you never could, and the very idea of standing would dissolve, for there is no ground there, only an outer skin of glowing gas thousands of miles deep, shading from blue-white into something even fiercer below. There is no shore, no rock, no still place to set a foot. And yet all of that heat, all that furious brightness, arrives at your window as the softest blue light, no warmer against your skin than the memory of a star. The fire is real. The distance simply turns it kind. Hold, too, the sheer weight of one of these stars. Our sun is already an enormous thing. More than 1 million Earths could be poured into it, and there would still be room to spare. A blue supergiant carries the mass of 10 such suns, sometimes 20, sometimes 50, all gathered into a single body and held together by its own tremendous gravity. The numbers grow so large they slip past the mind without quite catching, and perhaps that is the gentlest way to meet them, not as figures to be pinned down, but as a feeling of vastness, the same feeling that comes from standing at the edge of a dark sea at night and sensing how much water lies out there, beyond the reach of your eyes, moving in the dark. You do not have to measure it. You only have to feel how large the night is, and how small and safe your own warm corner of it. With all that mass comes light, and the light is almost beyond belief. The sun lights an entire system of worlds, warms the oceans, raises the wheat, opens every flower that has ever opened toward a morning. A blue supergiant shines with the light of tens of thousands of suns, and the brightest of them with the light of hundreds of thousands. If one were set where the sun now sits, the day would not merely be bright, the sky would be unsurvivable, the seas would lift away as vapour. And yet the very same star, placed at its true and proper distance, becomes one of the loveliest things you can see. A single calm jewel hung in the cold air of a winter evening, simply shining because that is what it was made to do. The same fire that would be a catastrophe up close becomes, across enough darkness, a gift. These stars are rare, and that rarity is part of their quiet dignity. Out of all the countless stars scattered through a galaxy, only the smallest handful ever grow into blue supergiants. For every one of them there are millions of modest, long-lived stars much like the sun, and untold billions of small red embers that will outlast nearly everything else in existence. To find a blue supergiant at all, you must look toward the bright young regions of a galaxy, the places where stars are still being born in great glowing nurseries of gas, for it takes an unusually heavy star to become one, and heavy stars are precious and few. When you catch that blue light overhead, you're seeing one of the rarest kinds of fire the cosmos knows how to make, a thing that most stars never become and never could. And rare though they are, a single one can outshine a great host of ordinary stars. One blue supergiant may pour out more light than 100,000 suns like ours combined, enough that set among a vast crowd of older, fainter stars, it would blaze brighter than all of them together. The galaxy holds far more small stars than great ones, yet a handful of these giants can outglow whole multitudes of their humbler kin. To imagine one bright blue point shining down a swarm of dimmer lights is to feel how unevenly the universe shares its brilliance, most of it gathered now and then into a few rare and dazzling fires, each one a beacon among the quieter many. And they do not last. This is perhaps the most touching thing about them, and once you let it settle, the most peaceful. The sun has been shining for nearly 5 billion years, and is scarcely halfway through its long life. A blue supergiant burns through its enormous reserves of fuel in only a few million years, a flicker by the measure of the stars. They live fast because they live so brightly. The more fiercely a star shines, the more quickly it spends what it has. So the blue light at your window is the light of something that blazes gloriously and briefly, the way the very best part of a summer blazes, here and luminous and then gone, leaving the rest of time a little brighter for having held it. There is no sadness in that from where you lie. It is simply the rhythm of the largest things, and it can remind you how soft and unhurried your own small night is by comparison. Turn now toward one of these stars in particular, one you may already know by sight even if you never knew its name. Look toward the constellation of Orion, the great hunter of the winter sky, and find the brilliant blue-white star that marks his lifted foot. That star is Rigel, and it is one of the most beautiful blue supergiants in the whole of the heavens. Where the hunter's opposite shoulder glows with the warm orange of an old and swollen red star, Rigel answers from below with a cool and dazzling blue, the two of them like a fire and a piece of ice set at opposite corners of the same great figure. Rigel is the brighter of the pair, the seventh brightest star in all the night, and its light has been guiding travellers and sailors and dreamers for as long as there have been eyes to lift toward it. Its very name is a fragment of old human wonder. Rigel comes from an Arabic phrase meaning the foot of the hunter, the place it marks in the figure, and Deneb from a word for the tail, the part it lights in the swan. So many of the bright stars carry such names, handed down from the patient skywatchers of long ago deserts, and passed from language to language across the centuries until they reached us. To say the name of a blue giant aloud is to speak a word that people have used for the same point of light for 1,000 years and more. The stars are not only ancient in their light, they are ancient in their names, glowing above a long unbroken line of watchers who each, in turn, looked up and gave them words. What looks like a single blue point is something richer still. Rigel is not one star but a small family of them, bound together by gravity across the dark. The great blue supergiant burns at the heart of the group, and around it, far out in the surrounding emptiness, move several smaller companion stars, each one a sun in its own right, all of them too close together and too distant from you to be told apart by the naked eye. So the calm blue spark you see is really a gathering, a brilliant parent and its fainter children, turning slowly about one another in a dance that takes ages to complete a single round. You're watching a whole household of stars folded down into one tiny glint of light, the way a distant town becomes a single shimmer at the far end of a nighttime road. Rigel carries the mass of perhaps 20 suns, and shines with something like 100,000 times the sun's light, though it lies so far away, around 850 light-years, that all of that staggering brilliance is gentled into a single steady beacon. 850 years, that is how long its light has been on the road to you. The glow reaching your eyes tonight departed Rigel in an age of stone castles and candlelit halls, before almost anyone alive had been born, before your grandparents' grandparents drew their first breath. It has outrun every empire that rose and crumbled while it travelled, and it asks for nothing now but to be seen, for a single moment, by you, before you close your eyes. The body of Rigel is as vast as it is bright. Its glowing surface is more than 70 times wider than the sun's, a globe so enormous that, were it set in the sun's place, it would reach far out toward the inner worlds. To picture it, you might imagine the sun swelling until it filled a great part of the daytime sky, then cooling that image into a single blue point seen across an immense dark gulf. Everything about the star is oversized, its width, its weight, its blaze, and yet from the earth it occupies no more of the sky than the finest grain of sand held at arm's length. The largest things, seen from far enough away, become the smallest and the calmest. There is a strange comfort in holding both truths at once, the enormity and the tininess, the fire and the faint blue speck. Cross now to the other side of the sky, into the soft river of summer stars, and meet a blue supergiant of an altogether different temper. High in the constellation of Cygnus, the great swan that flies down the band of the Milky Way, there is a star called Deneb, set where the swan's tail would be. To the eye it is a calm white light, unremarkable beside its showier neighbours, and yet it may be one of the most luminous stars you can see at all, hiding its true power behind an almost unimaginable distance. Deneb is so far away that astronomers still cannot agree on exactly how far. The best estimates scatter across a great range, somewhere between 1,000 and 2,500 light-years out. It is among the most distant stars the unaided eye can comfortably find, and the simple fact that you can see it across that gulf tells you how fiercely it must truly burn. Because of that uncertain distance, Deneb's brightness becomes a kind of beautiful open question. If it sits at the near end of the estimates, it pours out perhaps 50,000 times the sun's light. If it lies at the far end, the figure climbs toward 200,000. Either way, it stands among the giants. There is something restful in that unsettledness, in a star so grand that even now its exact measure cannot be taken. You can let it stand for everything in the night that remains gently unknown, present and luminous and real, yet still keeping a little of its mystery, the way the last thoughts of a long day keep theirs as you slip down towards sleep. Not every question needs its answer tonight. Some are lovelier left open. Deneb belongs to a small company of bright stars that travellers have leaned on for centuries. Together with 2 other beacons in 2 other constellations, it forms a wide triangle high overhead through the warm months. A simple, faithful pattern that has helped people find their way across open country and open water since long before any map was drawn. Of the 3 corners of that triangle, Deneb is by far the most distant. The others are near neighbours by comparison, mere tens of light years off, while Deneb shines from the deep background of the galaxy itself. To see the 3 of them stand as equals in the sky, when one is so immeasurably farther than the rest, is a quiet lesson in how the night flattens all its distances into a single soft ceiling above your bed, where the near and the unthinkably far hang side by side as though they were the same. Return to the cause of all this brilliance, the heat, and follow it down to its source. The reason a blue supergiant burns so much hotter than the sun lies deep in its core in the hidden furnace where starlight is born. Every star shines by pressing the lightest elements together at its centre, fusing them into heavier ones and releasing a flood of energy in the doing. The heavier the star, the harder its own great weight crushes inward, and the hotter and faster that central furnace must run to hold the star up against its own gravity. A blue supergiant carrying the mass of many suns runs its core at a furious pace, and a furious core makes a blazing surface. The blue you see is the outward sign of an inward fire, the visible edge of an engine running far hotter than anything our own gentle sun has ever needed to be. The light itself, before it ever reaches the surface, makes a long, slow journey out from that buried furnace. Born deep in the core, a single ray of energy cannot simply fly straight out. It is absorbed and flung back, absorbed and flung again countless times over, bouncing its way outward through the dense layers above it, like a wanderer feeling along the walls of an enormous dark house. By the time it finally breaks free at the surface and leaps out into space, an age may have passed since it was first made. So the blue light arriving at your window is old in 2 ways at once. Old from its long crossing of space, and older still from the slow climb it made just to escape the star. The glow you see was a great while in the making, patient at every step. The blue you finally meet, then, is light that has changed its nature on the way. Deep inside, the energy is far too fierce to see, a flood of invisible radiation hammering outward through the star. Only at the cool outer surface, where the great fire meets the dark, does it settle at last into the blue-white glow your eyes can gather. Everything visible about the star happens only at that thin outer edge, the single shining skin where the inward fury becomes something gentle enough to look upon. All that ferocity, tamed into colour at the very surface, and tamed again, far more, by the long dark miles between the star and you. From that scorching surface streams something your eyes cannot even register, a great flood of ultraviolet light, the same invisible kind that tans the skin and slowly bleaches the colour from a curtain left too long in a sunlit window. The hottest stars pour out far more of their energy as ultraviolet than as the visible glow you actually see. So the blue point above your roof is, in truth, only the small visible fraction of a far greater radiance, most of its light streaming out in a band your eyes were never built to catch. There is a gentle humility in that thought, that the brilliant things you can see are often only a sliver of what is truly there, the greater part streaming silently past, unfelt and unseen, doing you no harm at all as it goes. The night holds far more than it ever shows. That invisible torrent does remarkable work out in the dark. A blue supergiant rarely burns alone in empty space. It is often still wrapped in the thin remains of the cloud from which it formed, vast veils of gas drifting for many light years in every direction. The star's ultraviolet light pours into that gas and sets it aglow, the way a hidden bulb lights a paper lantern from within. Whole clouds, light years across, are lit and shaped and slowly sculpted by the radiance of the giant stars buried inside them, the edges carved into ridges and pillars and long curling walls. The grandest glowing nebulae in all the sky owe their light to stars like these. The blue supergiant is the lamp. The nebula is the soft and coloured glow it throws across the great dark room of the galaxy. The wind from such a star does more than seed the dark. It hollows out a great space around the star itself. Blowing steadily outward for ages, that stream of stellar substance pushes back the thin gas of the surrounding region, sweeping it aside into a vast rounded shell and leaving a cleared cavity many light years across at the centre. The giant comes to sit inside a great bubble of its own making, a quiet hollow swept clean by the steady pressure of its wind. A single bright star then, resting at the very heart of an enormous soft sphere of swept-up gas. Like a lantern set in the middle of a clearing, it is slowly pushed open in the dark. Even in the thin emptiness between the stars, a giant shapes a room around itself and dwells there in the calm at its centre. Where the star's fierce light strikes the wall of a nearby dark cloud, it lights a glowing edge along the rim. The ultraviolet glare reaches only so far into the dense cold gas before it is spent, and right at that boundary, the cloud kindles into a bright, slowly shifting line, a luminous shoreline where light meets dark. Telescopes show these glowing rims threading the great nebulae, tracing the exact reach of each hot star's radiance against the surrounding murk. It is a coastline drawn in light, marking the far edge of a giant's influence, brightest just where its glare runs out. A single, hot blue star, quietly outlining the shape of the darkness it cannot quite pierce. Picture one of those clouds the way a telescope reveals it. Great cliffs and towers of glowing gas, rose and green and pale gold, standing in the dark like a coastline seen at first light. Nothing in such an image is moving at any pace your eye could ever follow. The pillars seem perfectly frozen, though in truth they are being shaped ever so slowly over thousands upon thousands of years by the patient pressure of starlight against gas. At the heart of the brightest of them sits a hot blue star, or a cluster of them, lighting the whole vast structure from within. You're looking at architecture built of light and vapour, on a scale so enormous that an entire human life would pass in the time it takes one of those towers to so much as shift its shoulders. Let that slowness in. Let your own thoughts loosen toward the same unhurried pace. The gas does not merely glow, it also streams away. From the surface of a blue supergiant blows a constant wind. Not a wind of air, but of the star's own substance, its outer layers driven steadily outward by the sheer pressure of all that light pushing from within. Across a single year, a great star can shed an astonishing amount of itself into space this way, casting it off into the surrounding dark like sea spray torn from the white crest of a wave. Over the long ages, these stellar winds seed the galaxy with the very material that will one day gather again into new clouds, new stars, perhaps even new worlds with new mornings. The giant gives itself away slowly, generously, all its long brief life. And somewhere in that endless casting off there is a kind of peace, the ease of something so full that it can afford, always, to keep letting go. Now take in the scale of one of these stars, because the size is hard to truly feel until you set it against something familiar. The sun is already so wide that 100 Earths could be laid across its face in a single row. A blue supergiant can be tens of times wider than the sun again, wide enough that, were it set where the sun now sits, its glowing surface might reach out past the nearest planets, folding the little inner worlds inside its own bright body. And yet, for all that size, it would weigh upon you no more than a feather weighs upon still water from this far away. The largest things in the sky are also the most distant, and distance, ever the kind translator, turns even the most colossal fire into a calm and silent point you can rest your tired gaze upon and feel nothing but wonder, never weight. There is a strange and lovely fact hidden inside all this size and heat. These stars are not still within. Many of them breathe. The most luminous of the blue supergiants pulse very slowly, swelling and shrinking by a little over days or weeks, their brightness rising and falling in a rhythm almost too gentle to notice from the ground. Deneb itself is one of these faint pulsators, the founder of a whole quiet class of breathing stars that bear its name. Imagine a star the width of 100 suns drawing a single slow breath across an entire week, expanding, holding, easing back. It is the steadiest, most enormous heartbeat in the sky. And as your own breath slows now, going long and even in the dark, you keep a kind of distant company with these vast and unhurried stars, each of you rising and falling in your own good time, in your own far corner of the night. Consider how astronomers ever came to know any of this, given that no one has ever touched a star or held even the smallest piece of one. Everything understood about a blue supergiant arrives the way its light arrives, across the dark, gathered carefully in. When that blue-white light is spread out into all its colours, the way ordinary sunlight spreads into a rainbow, it carries thin, dark lines threaded through it, a kind of fine barcode written by the elements in the star's outer air. From those faint lines, scientists read a star's temperature, its makeup, its motion, even its weight, all without ever leaving the ground beneath their feet. The whole towering story of a blue supergiant is told by nothing more than the light that finally reaches a quiet observatory on a clear and ordinary night. You're receiving the very same message at your window right now, even if you never read a single word of it. The message can be surprisingly intimate. From that woven light, astronomers can tell whether a star is moving toward us or away by the way its colours shift the faintest amount toward the blue or toward the red, the same way a far-off train's whistle drops in its pitch as it sweeps past a crossing. They can sense a star spinning, its light smeared just slightly by the turning of its great body. They can even detect an unseen companion by the small, faithful wobble it stirs in the giant's path through space. All of this is gathered from a thread of light no thicker than a whisper, crossing centuries of emptiness to be unravelled at last on a mountaintop. The night, it turns out, is not silent at all. It is endlessly speaking, in a language of light, to anyone willing to listen gently enough. The very word for these stars carries their grandeur within it. Long ago, sorting the stars by the fineness of the lines woven through their light, astronomers found that some shone far more brightly than ordinary stars of the same colour, and they set those luminous few into a class all their own, and called them, simply, the supergiants, the brightest tier in the whole hierarchy of stars, with only a rare and dazzling handful above them. A blue supergiant earns that name twice over, for both its colour and its rank. To say the word is to place the star at the very summit of brightness, among the most luminous things the sorting of the sky has ever found. The grandest stars wear the grandest name, written into the quiet arithmetic of their light. Some of these giants carry a hidden force as well, woven invisibly through them, a magnetic field, vast and slow, threading the star the way the Earth's own field threads the globe and turns a compass needle. Only a small fraction of the great hot stars seem to hold such fields, and astronomers detect them by the faint imprint they leave in the star's light. These fields may quietly shape how a star ages, steering some of them toward the blue rather than the red. So even an invisible thing, a slow magnetism wrapped around a distant sun, leaves its soft signature in the light that finds your window. One more secret a star cannot help but tell. Among the blue supergiants there are two great branches, and the difference between them is simply a matter of heat. The very hottest, born from the heavier stars of all, are the searing blue ones whose surfaces blaze far past the reach of the eye's colour sense, pouring out most of their ferocious light as the invisible kind. A little cooler, though still tremendously hot by any earthly measure, are the blue-white giants like Deneb, their light edging toward the pure white end of the flame. The names matter far less than the picture, a family of stars arranged along a long slope of temperature, from the coolest white down through every shade to the most furious electric blue. The sky holds the whole gradient at once, scattered overhead like sparks of different heats thrown from a single great fire, all of them cooled to perfect harmlessness by the long fall of distance to your eye. You've seen this same law at work in an ordinary fire, perhaps without ever marking it. A bar of iron pushed into the coals first glows a dull red, then brightens to orange, then to yellow, and at last, in the hottest forge, to a fierce white touched with blue. The metal does not change what it is, only its heat climbs, and its colour climbs with it. The stars obey that very same rule, written large across the sky. A blue supergiant is simply iron pushed past the white, an object so hot that its glow has climbed all the way to the top of the scale and turned blue. The fire in your memory and the fire in the heavens are reading from the same book. You already knew in your hands how to tell the heat of a star by its colour. For all that ferocity, not a sound of it ever reaches you, for space itself carries no sound at all. The vast winds, the slow eruptions, the final flares, events that would deafen any world nearby, unfold in perfect silence, for there is no air between the stars to carry a voice. The loudest objects in all of creation are, from across that emptiness, the most utterly quiet. A blue supergiant could be pouring out a roar beyond imagining, and still it would reach your window as nothing more than a soundless point of light. The night sky is the stillest of all rooms, its fiercest furnaces blazing without the faintest whisper. A silence so deep and so complete that you can rest inside it as though it were made for sleep. There seems to be a ceiling to all this brightness, a soft upper edge that the stars do not cross. However heavy a star may be, there is a limit to how luminous it can grow and still hold itself together. Push beyond it, and the star's own light begins to tear at its outer layers and blow them away. Astronomers mapped that boundary long ago, a faint line drawn across the top of the great chart of the stars, above which the cool red giants simply are not found. For any star that luminous has shed its outer blanket and turned hot and blue instead. It is a kind of natural restraint built into the cosmos, a quiet upper limit on how bright a single star may shine. Even the grandest fires obey a ceiling and rest beneath it. Look back toward Orion once more, because Rigel is far from the only blue jewel set in the Hunter. The three bright stars that form his unmistakable belt, lined up short and straight across the middle of the figure, are themselves blazing hot blue-white stars, each one a giant or a near giant in its own right. They only seem small and modest because they stand so staggeringly far away, much farther, most of them, than Rigel below. So the belt you can find in a single upward glance on a clear winter night is a row of distant furnaces, each pouring out the radiance of many thousands of suns, lined up by sheer chance along your line of sight into one tidy, faithful stripe. The simplest, most instantly recognizable pattern in the whole sky is built from some of its mightiest stars, every one of them gentled by distance into a quiet decoration above the rooftops. Mintaka, the rightmost of those three belt stars, hides a secret of its own. What appears as a single point is in fact a tight knot of several hot blue stars, swinging around one another so closely and so far away that no eye and few telescopes can ever pull them apart. Two of them circle each other in a particularly close embrace, passing one in front of the other again and again, so that the star's brightness dips ever so faintly with a clockwork regularity. From across all those light years, this whole intricate carousel of suns reaches you as nothing more than the dim left edge of a familiar belt. The sky is full of such folded richness, single points of light that open, on closer looking, into entire systems, the way a still dark pond opens into depth the moment you finally lean over its surface. Let the eye climb to the middle belt star Alnilam, for it is a particularly grand blue supergiant, blazing without close companions, one of the most intrinsically brilliant stars in the entire sky, despite its modest place in the line. It lights the thin gas drifting around it into a faint glowing cloud, a soft bloom of colour that long exposures can capture even when the unaided eye cannot. To stand under Orion and know that the calm middle star of the belt is in truth a colossal blue fire, lighting its own private mist 1,000 light-years off, is to feel the sky deepen around you, gaining flaw after hidden flaw below its smooth surface. The plainest sights, looked at long enough, turn out to be the most astonishing of all. The eye and the camera see the night quite differently, and the difference is a small marvel in itself. In the dim of night, your eyes drain the colour from faint things, so most stars seem a plain silvery white. But a camera, left to stare at one patch of sky for a long while, gathers light the eye cannot hold, and slowly the true colours bloom out of the dark. The warm rubies and ambers, and the cool blues of the giants, glowing in shades no glance could ever catch. The night is far more colourful than it appears. It simply reveals that colour only to the patient, to the long, unblinking gaze. The camera dreams in colour where the waking eye sees only white, and shows us a sky that was vivid all along. And Alnitak at the left of the belt anchors one of the most photographed regions of the whole heavens. Its fierce light helps to illuminate a great curtain of glowing red gas, and against that curtain stands the famous dark silhouette shaped like the head of a horse, a tower of cold dust thrown into relief by the blaze behind it. 3 stars, one straight line, and behind that childlike simplicity a whole gallery of distant splendour, glowing clouds, dark sculptures, hidden multiples, colossal hidden fires. All of it perfectly safe to rest your tired eyes upon. You could look up at that little belt every clear night of your life and never come to the end of what is hiding, quietly, just behind it. Scythe, the star that marks the hunter's other knee, opposite Rigel, is another searing blue-white giant, hotter even than Rigel at its surface, though it appears noticeably dimmer to us. The reason is the same gentle trick of distance and of light. Much of Scythe's enormous output streams away as that invisible glow your eyes cannot gather, so the star seems far quieter than it truly is. 2 giant stars mark the lower corners of Orion, then one famous and bright, one overlooked and fainter, and both are among the hottest things you will ever lay eyes upon, each cooled by the long miles of darkness into a calm and steady point. There is comfort in knowing how much fierce energy can be standing right there in plain sight, utterly unable to disturb the quiet of your room. And there is Bellatrix, marking the hunter's other shoulder, a hot blue-white star bright enough to have earned its own old name across the ages. Less massive than the great supergiants, it still burns with that same cool blue fire, a near cousin to the giants, blazing at the edge of their company. Look at Orion whole, now, in your mind. The warm orange shoulder, the cool blue shoulder, the 2 blue knees, the 3 blue stars of the belt strung between them. Nearly the entire figure is built of blue and blue-white fire, a hunter drawn in the sky almost wholly out of the hottest stars there are, and all of it hanging silent and harmless above a sleeping world, a fierce constellation rendered gentle by nothing more than the dark that lies between. Below the belt of Orion hangs a faint smudge of light, blurred and soft to the naked eye, that the smallest telescope opens into one of the loveliest sights in all the sky, a great glowing cloud of gas lit from within. This is the nursery of Orion, a vast region where new stars are being born even now, and at its glowing heart sits a tight little group of brilliant young stars only recently kindled. Their fierce light pours into the surrounding gas and sets the whole enormous cloud aglow, a soft lantern hung beneath the hunter's belt. What looks like a single hazy star is in truth a place where stars are made, a cradle light years across, shining with the first light of its newest children. The little knot of stars at the centre of that cloud is a true stellar newborn room, a handful of hot blue stars crowded into a space so small, by cosmic measure, that they almost touch. These are among the youngest bright stars you can find, kindled so recently that the gas of their birth still glows all around them. Their combined radiance carves a great hollow in the cloud and lights it from inside, the way a few candles light the hole inside of a tent. To look toward that faint patch below the belt is to look at the very beginning of stars, at fire so new it has scarcely had time to settle, and all of it, that whole bright commotion of creation, reaching you as the softest possible blur against the dark. Some of those newborn stars do not stay home. Long ago, in a tight cluster much like the one glowing beneath Orion, a small group of hot young stars came too close together, and in the gravitational jostling that followed, a few were flung outward like seeds from a bursting pod. They are still travelling now, fast and alone, having left their birthplace far behind, crossing the galaxy as solitary wanderers. Astronomers can trace their paths backward and watch them all converge, long ago, on the same small patch of sky. The stars are not always still in their constellations. A few are runaways, hurled out of the nest, carrying the memory of a shared beginning across the dark in different directions. One such runaway burns in a quieter part of the sky, a hot blue giant flung free of its companions and now ploughing through space at tremendous speed. As it races forward, it pushes the thin gas and dust before it into a great curved wave, a glowing arc piled up ahead of the star like the bow wave heaped before the prow of a ship. Its fierce light sets that swept up dust aglow, so the star travels inside a faint shining crescent of its own making. To picture it is to see a single blue point sailing silently through an ocean of dust, a soft curved gleam forever bunched ahead of it. The star is moving faster than any thought, and yet from the Earth it seems perfectly fixed, its long voyage frozen into a single still image of light. Time itself behaves strangely around these stars, and it is a soothing kind of strange. Because Rigel lies some 850 light-years off, you never see the star as it is tonight. You see it as it was 8.5 centuries ago, when that light first set out toward you. Deneb's light is older still, perhaps far older, a glow that may have left its star before nations now long vanished had even risen. To look up at a blue supergiant is to look directly into the deep past, to receive a letter sent ages ago by something that may have changed entirely since the writing of it. The whole night sky is a kind of vast slow mail, every star a message still in transit, and you're simply lying back and letting the oldest letters in all of existence arrive, unhurried, against your slowly closing eyes. This means something gentle and almost dreamlike. The sky you see is not a single moment at all, but a great gathering of different times. The light of a near star may be only a handful of years old, the light of a distant blue giant, many centuries, the faint glow of another galaxy beyond it, far older than the Earth itself. All of it reaches you together in one quiet instant, layered into the same dark dome above your bed. No 2 points up there are showing you the same now. The night is a seamless collage of countless pasts, stitched together into what only looks like one calm evening. And you, lying perfectly still beneath it, are the single point where all those ancient lights, after all their travelling, at last come to rest. When a star seems to tremble or twinkle, that flicker is not the star at all, it is the breath of the Earth's own air. A blue giant's light, after its long steady crossing of space, plunges in its final moment through the restless ocean of our atmosphere, and the moving air bends and ruffles it, so the point appears to shiver against the dark. Rise above that thin blanket of air, out where there is nothing to disturb the light, and every star would burn perfectly still, an unwavering point. So the twinkling you love is a last gift of the earth, a little dance the air performs upon a light that has held rock steady for centuries. Above the weather, the giants do not flicker, they simply calmly shine. A planet, by the way, scarcely twinkles at all, and that is a quiet way to tell one from a star. A planet shows the eye a tiny disk of reflected sunlight, broad enough that the air cannot ruffle it much, so it shines with a steady glow. A star is so unimaginably far that it arrives as a single fine point, and the air toys with that point and sets it shivering. Next time a light overhead burns calm and unblinking, it is likely a near world catching the sun, and the one that trembles beside it, a far sun of its own. Even the gentle restlessness of the stars, then, is really a message about distance. The trembling ones are the farthest fires of all. Now follow the long arc of one of these stars through its life, slowly, the way you might trace a great river from its mountain source down toward the sea. A blue supergiant begins as an unusually heavy newborn star, gathering out of a cold dark cloud far more material than most stars ever come to claim. From its first moments it burns hot and blue, racing through its fuel at a pace smaller stars can scarcely imagine. For the few million years of its main life it holds steady, fusing the lightest element at its core, shining with the even ferocity that gives it its colour. It is, in those years, simply being a star, magnificently, briefly, with the whole of its bright self. And all of that fierce living plays out so far away that it reaches you only as a soft constancy in the winter dark, a single point that does not waver. As the core's first fuel begins to run low, the star enters a long and graceful change, and here the story takes a turn that once surprised even the people who study the heavens. A great star does not simply hold one form until the very end. Its interior reshapes itself as the fuel shifts, and the whole vast body can answer by swelling and cooling into a red giant, or by drawing inward and heating again into a blue one. Some of these stars cross back and forth between blue and red more than once in their final ages, like a sleeper turning over slowly in the night, settling first one way and then the other. The colour you see in the sky is only one frame of a long, slow film, a single held breath in a life that is still, imperceptibly in motion. This wandering between blue and red is one of the loveliest puzzles in all the study of stars. A star that has cooled and reddened can, under just the right inner conditions, contract and warm and turn blue once more, tracing what astronomers call a loop back toward the hot side of things, before easing red again. Whether a given giant ends its days as a red star or a blue one depends on delicate balances buried deep in its heart. How heavy it was at birth, how much of itself it has cast away on the wind, what elements have gathered in its core. It is a slow indecision played out across many thousands of years, far too gradual for any single watcher to witness. From your pillow, all of that vast deliberation is simply a steady blue point, holding its colour faithfully for the whole of your one short night. To catch a star in its blue supergiant phase is, in truth, a doubly rare thing. These giants are uncommon to begin with, born only from the heaviest of stars, and the blue supergiant chapter may last only a fraction even of that star's already brief life, a short passage between other forms. So the blue light you happen to see tonight is a star caught in a fleeting moment of its fleeting existence, a particular page of a story it will not hold open for long. Across the slow ages, the very same star may pass through several colours and shapes, and you are seeing it in just this one. There is a quiet luck in that, in glimpsing so brief a thing in so brief a glance. 2 passing moments, the stars and yours, happening to meet in the dark. Midway through that great crossing, as a star moves between its blue self and its red one, it passes for a time through a band of colour where it cannot hold quite steady, and there it begins to pulse, swelling and shrinking in a faithful rhythm, brightening and dimming over days. It becomes a kind of cosmic lighthouse, its pulse so regular that its rhythm reveals its true brightness. Astronomers learned long ago to read these steady beats, and from them, to measure the distances to far-off galaxies, using such pulsing stars as the first rungs of a great ladder reaching out into the universe. So even a star caught restless between two colours does a quiet service, beating out the scale of the cosmos in light, a slow and faithful pulse threading the dark. For a long while, astronomers were quite sure they knew how the very biggest stars would end. The expectation was tidy. A heavy star would swell into an enormous cool red supergiant, and it was that bloated red star, they believed, that would one day reach the end of its fuel and let go. The blue supergiants, hot and compact by comparison, were thought to be a passing phase, a stop along the way rather than a final destination. It was a clean and reasonable picture, and it held for many years. Then, one night, the sky offered a gentle correction, the kind of surprise that does not frighten but delights, the way a long familiar path can suddenly reveal a turning you had somehow never noticed before. In the year 1987, in a small companion galaxy that drifts near our own, a star reached the end of its life and announced it with a great flare of light, the nearest such event seen from the Earth in close to 400 years. When astronomers turned to the old records to find which star had stood there before, they expected, of course, a red supergiant. Instead, on the earlier photographs in exactly that spot sat a blue one, a hot blue-white giant that had been quietly catalogued years before by an astronomer whose name it still carries. The star that ended its life was not the swollen red one everyone awaited, but a compact blue supergiant, gently upending a long-held belief in a single night. The cosmos, it seems, keeps a few of its rules loosely, and now and then reminds the watchers below to hold their certainties lightly. That single surprise reshaped how scientists understand the lives of the very largest stars. It taught them that a blue supergiant is not merely a way station, but can be a true and final destination. That the path from a star's birth to its closing flare is more winding and various than the neat old picture had ever allowed. Much of what is now understood about how heavy stars truly live and end traces back to that one well-watched light in a neighbouring galaxy. How heartening that is, that even the most studied corners of the sky can still hold a gentle astonishment, that the universe is never quite finished teaching, and that being wrong, out here among the stars, is simply how the long, slow seeing improves itself over time. That same distant flare carried more than light. In the hours around its blaze, instruments deep underground on the Earth caught a faint shower of ghostly particles. Tiny, almost weightless travellers flung out from the dying star's collapsing heart, having crossed 160,000 years of darkness to arrive. They passed through the entire planet as though it were not there, as though the solid Earth were a pane of clear glass, leaving only the faintest trace behind in the great detectors waiting for them. From a single star's ending in another galaxy, a whisper of its innermost moment reached us, soft and harmless, slipping through the world and through everything in it. Even the most violent event imaginable arrived in the end as the gentlest possible touch. In the years that followed that great flare, telescopes watching the same patch of sky saw something lovely take shape around it. A luminous ring, and then more rings beyond, glowing softly where the burst of light had washed over gas the old blue star had shed long before it died. The flash lit those far veils of gas as it passed, and they answered with a slow circle of light, an expanding halo drawn faintly around the place where the star had been. It is as though the dying giant left behind a ring of soft fire, a wreath of its own old breath, hanging in the dark of that neighbour galaxy. Even an ending leaves behind a thing of beauty, glowing gently outward across the years. Stay with that distant galaxy a moment longer, the one that hosted the great surprise, for it is a soft and lovely thing in its own right. It is a small, irregular cloud of stars hanging near our own larger galaxy, visible from the southern half of the world as a faint smudge of light, like a torn piece of the Milky Way set quietly adrift. Within it lie great glowing nurseries where new stars are still being born, including some of the most luminous blue giants known anywhere. To look toward that little cloud is to look across more than 150,000 years of travelling light, at a whole separate island of suns, near enough to be a neighbour, far enough to be its own entire world. The blue stars burning there are doing so utterly beyond any reach of yours, beautiful and harmless across that immense and silent gulf. Within that companion galaxy sits one of the most spectacular regions in the entire local universe, a vast complex of glowing gas and brilliant young stars, sometimes pictured as a great cosmic flower, or a spider's web of light spun across the dark. At its heart blazes a tight cluster of the heaviest, hottest stars known, many of them blue supergiants and stranger giants still, crowded together and pouring their combined radiance into the surrounding cloud until the whole region glows for hundreds of light years. It is one of the brightest stellar nurseries anywhere within reach of our telescopes, and all of that ferocious creation, that whole furnace of newborn suns, hangs in the southern sky as the faintest imaginable glimmer, a thing you would need dark skies and a patient eye even to find, fierce beyond all imagining, and from here utterly serene. At the very centre of that glowing web lives the most extraordinary star yet known, a single blue giant carrying the weight of well over 200 suns and shining with the light of millions. It sits near the upper limit of what a star is even able to be, so heavy and so radiant that its own light strains constantly against its gravity. And yet, for all that record-breaking ferocity, it is so far away that no eye could ever single it out. It hides inside that faint southern glimmer, one impossible fire among many, betrayed only to the most careful instruments. The mightiest star known to exist arrives at the Earth as part of a smudge you could hide behind a fingertip. Even the grandest things the universe can build are from here, perfectly, restfully small. Closer to the heart of our own galaxy burns another of these unstable giants, a star so luminous that it was once thought the brightest in all the Milky Way, wrapped in a great glowing cloud of gas it threw off in some past convulsion. The cloud it cast away is shaped, in our telescopes, a little like a curl of smoke, and the star sits cradled at its centre, still blazing with the light of millions of suns. Stars like this one shed themselves in slow outbursts across the centuries, swelling and quieting and swelling again, draped always in the glowing veils of their own making. From the Earth, all that turmoil is hidden behind the thick dust toward the galaxy's centre, so the fiercest fire is also one of the most deeply concealed, a great light, wrapped in cloud, wrapped in distance, wrapped in dark. Far to the south burns yet another of these restless giants, a famous pair of stars locked in a long orbit, the larger of them among the most massive in the galaxy. Long ago it brightened in a tremendous outburst, flinging off two great glowing lobes of gas that now spread on either side of it, like the wings of some vast luminous moth. The star survived its own eruption and burns on still, swaddled in the billowing shells it threw away. To see it pictured is to see a single point of fire at the waist of two enormous glowing clouds, a slow explosion held forever in mid-bloom. And all of that grandeur is so distant that it can do nothing but shine, a far southern light arranging and rearranging its veils across spans of time longer than any human memory. Consider too that blue supergiants help astronomers to measure the universe itself. Because these stars are so tremendously luminous, they can be seen across enormous distances, not only within our own galaxy, but in others millions of light years away. By comparing how bright such a star appears against how bright it must truly be, scientists can gauge the distance to the whole galaxy that holds it, using the giants as a kind of standard candle set out in the dark. A single blue supergiant in a far-off spiral can become a measuring rod for the gulf between galaxies. These rare, brief stars, so quick to live and to end, find themselves serving as quiet surveyors of the cosmos, marking out its vast dimensions with their light long after they themselves have gone. For the nearest stars, there is an even simpler way to find a distance, and it is a thing your own two eyes do every moment without your knowing. As the Earth swings from one side of its orbit to the other across half a year, the closest stars seem to shift the tiniest fraction against the more distant ones behind them, the same way a finger held up at arm's length appears to jump when you look first with one eye, then the other. From the size of that tiny seasonal shift, astronomers measure how far a near star truly lies. It is the first and most trustworthy rung of the long ladder out into space, and the giants beyond its reach are gauged by their light instead. The whole vast scale of the heavens begins with nothing grander than a star that seems to lean, ever so slightly, as the Earth carries you around the sun. There is a humbling gentleness in how far these stars can be seen. The unaided eye reaches only the nearest few of them, scattered through our own corner of the galaxy. But a good telescope picks out individual blue supergiants in galaxies so distant that their light set out before the Earth had cooled into solid ground beneath the first oceans. Each of those far points is a single colossal star, burning blue across a distance that turns whole galaxies into faint pale smudges. To know that a single star can announce its presence across millions of years of darkness and still arrive as nothing more than a soft mote of light is to feel at once very small and strangely safe. One quiet watcher beneath a sky whose furthest fires can never, ever touch you. The great spiral galaxy nearest our own, a faint oval smudge you can find with the naked eye on an autumn night, lies more than 2 million light-years away, and yet a modest telescope can pick out within it a few of its very brightest stars, every one of them a blue supergiant. Of all the suns in that whole vast neighbour galaxy, these are the only individuals a backyard observer can hope to single out, so luminous that they shine clear across 2 million years of darkness. Among the brightest individual stars in all the universe, they are these blue giants, the ones that let astronomers reach out and almost touch a galaxy beyond their own. A single blue star glimpsed across that gulf is a hand laid gently on a distant island of suns. Closer in, the brightness of a single blue supergiant in a far galaxy can be read so carefully that it reveals not only the distance, but something of the gas it drifts through, the makeup of its surroundings, the chemistry of a whole region millions of light-years off. From one bright blue point patiently studied, scientists draw out the character of an entire distant arm of stars. These giants are not only lamps and milestones, but messengers, each one carrying word of the far country it lives in, written in the fine lines of its light. The brightest stars in the universe are also, in their quiet way, its most faithful correspondents, sending letters no one had to ask them to write. Closer to home, the night holds blue giants you can find with nothing but your own eyes and a little patience. Beyond Rigel and Deneb and the stars of Orion's belt, there are scattered blue-white beacons in many constellations, bright points whose colour, once you learn to notice it, stands clearly apart from the warmer yellow and orange of their neighbours. Train your eye to the difference between a warm star and a cool blue one, and the whole sky quietly sorts itself by temperature, a vast scattered fire arranged by heat across the dark. It is a soft and pleasant game for a clear evening, this reading of colours overhead, and a restful one, for it asks only that you look and notice and let each small flame be exactly what it is without ever needing to name it. Not every brilliant star is a giant though, and the difference is a gentle lesson in itself. The very brightest star in all the night, a fierce white point low in the winter sky, is not a supergiant at all, but a modest white star that happens to lie remarkably close to us, just a few years of light travel away. It blazes so boldly only because it is near, the way a small lamp at your bedside can outshine a great searchlight on a distant hill. The blue supergiants are the opposite case entirely, faint-seeming and yet truly colossal, dim in the eye only because they are so unthinkably far. To know which bright stars are near and small, and which are far and immense, is to feel the true depth behind the flat dome of the sky, to sense how the nearest little flame and the farthest great fire can shine, side by side, with the very same softness. The longer you watch, the more of them appear. Step outside into a dark night, and at first only the boldest stars show themselves. But wait, and let your eyes settle into the dark, and slowly the fainter lights bloom into being until the sky's crowded with far more than you first believed. Among the brightest of those steady arrivals are the blue giants, holding their cool colour while dimmer stars wink in around them. There is a soft patience in this slow filling in of the sky, a reward that comes only to those who linger and do not hurry. The night does not give itself all at once, it opens gradually, like the mind easing towards sleep, more and more of it arriving the longer and the more gently you wait. Imagine one of these blue beacons lifting into view above your own horizon, the way they have risen for every watcher who ever lived. Hour by hour, as the earth turns beneath you, a blue star climbs from the rooftops or the trees, crosses the high dark and slips down the far side toward morning. A slow arc traced across the whole night by nothing but the turning of the ground you rest upon. You need not be anywhere special to see it. The same blue light that crossed centuries of space ends its journey at your particular window, over your particular street. The grandest fire in the heavens comes, in the end, to rise quietly over your own small patch of the world and to keep you company there until you sleep. Follow the long curving handle of the Great Dipper down and around, and the arc leads at last to a single bright blue-white star low in the spring sky. This is Spica, the brightest light of its constellation, a hot blue star lying some 2.5 centuries of light travel away. Like so many of these giants, it is not truly alone. 2 stars circle one another there so closely and so swiftly that they complete a full orbit in only a few days, whirling about their shared centre in a tight and rapid dance. To the eye, all of that motion folds into one calm blue point at the end of a long sweep of sky. A simple curving line traced from a familiar dipper leads you straight to a pair of suns embracing in the dark. In the heart of the lion shines another, a blue-white star the old watchers called the Little King, set so squarely on the path the sun and planets walk that the moon sometimes slides in front of it, blotting it out for a breath before letting it shine again. This star spins so fast upon itself that it has been flung out of a round, its middle bulging outward, its poles drawn in, the whole great body shaped like a slightly squashed ball by the speed of its own turning. To picture a star spinning so quickly that it changes its very shape is to feel how full of motion even the steadiest points of light truly are. Yet to your eye it holds perfectly still, a calm blue king keeping its place in the dark. That headlong spin gives such a star 2 temperatures at once. Flung outward into a broad bulge at its equator, the star's middle is carried slightly farther from its own fierce core, and so it runs a little cooler and shines a little dimmer there. Its drawn-in poles, held closer to the heart, blaze hotter and brighter. A single star, then, glows unevenly across its own face, brilliant white blue at the poles, softening toward a gentler blue around its swollen waist. To imagine standing off to the side and seeing that gradient, the bright caps and the dimmer belt, is to realize that even a single point of light overhead is a whole varied world, hotter here and cooler there, all of it folded down by distance into one calm and even spark. Far in the southern sky, beyond the reach of many northern windows, burns a blue star marking the mouth of a long winding river of fainter stars. It spins faster still than the Little King, so fast that it is the most flattened of all the bright stars, its equator bulging out into a broad oval, its form pulled well away from a perfect sphere. It is a hot blue beacon, heavier than the sun several times over, marking the very end of its celestial river. It is marvellous to think of a star whirling itself out of round, and yet seeming, from across all that distance, a single still and tranquil point. The fiercest spin in the sky reaches the resting eye as perfect stillness. Lower still in the far south, where northern travellers must journey to see it, hangs the small bright cross that has guided sailors across the bottom of the world for centuries. Most of its handful of stars are hot blue-white giants, young by the reckoning of the stars, kindled together out of the same region of sky less than 20 million years ago, and still drifting along a shared path. The little cross is built almost entirely of blue fire, a compact figure of cool, bright stars set against the dark band of the southern Milky Way. For all the legends and crossings it has anchored, it is at heart a small cluster of young blue giants, burning quietly above an ocean only the southern half of the world can see. Many of those southern blue stars belong to a single great loose family, a vast scattered company of hot blue-white stars spread across a wide swathe of the sky, all of them born from the same enormous cloud and still drifting in the same slow direction through space. They're too far apart now to hold one another by gravity. They merely share a birthplace and a heading, like seeds blown from a single pod and carried on the same long wind. To trace their common motion across the dark is to watch a whole generation of sibling stars, scattered but kindred, drifting gently apart across millions of years. The brightest blue stars of the southern sky are, many of them, cousins, still loosely travelling together long after leaving the nest. Even the faithful star that marks the north holds a quiet surprise. It too is a supergiant, though a cooler golden one rather than a blue. The steady pole star, the one that scarcely moves while all the others wheel around it through the night, is in truth an enormous and luminous sun, shining with the light of more than 1,000 of ours and gently pulsing as it goes. It only seems so calm and ordinary because it sits so far away and burns at a milder heat than its fierce blue kin. The very star generations of travellers steered by, the fixed and trusty lamp of the north, is itself one of the great ones, a giant in plain disguise, keeping its steady place above the turning world. Gather your gaze toward a small cluster of stars riding high in the winter sky, a tight little knot that the eye reads as a faint cluster of jewels. These are some of the youngest bright stars near us, hot and blue, all born together not so very long ago out of a single cloud, still travelling as a family across the dark. They drift now through a thin haze of dust, and their blue light scatters off that dust into a soft surrounding glow, wrapping the whole cluster in a faint bluish mist. Most people who look up see only a handful of these stars, though many more crowd the little group than the eye can separate. A pinch of blue fire tossed into the winter sky, still bound together by the gravity of their shared beginning. That soft glow around the little cluster is worth resting on, for it is a particular kind of beauty. The blue stars there are not lighting a cloud of their own making. They happen to be drifting through a stray veil of dust, and their light simply bounces off it, the way the headlamps of a far car catch and silver a bank of fog. Because blue light scatters most easily, the reflected glow takes on the same cool blue as the stars themselves, a tinted mist hanging around them in the dark. There is no fire in the cloud at all, only borrowed light, scattered and softened, a blue echo of the stars wrapped gently around the stars. Even the dust between worlds can be made lovely by the right light passing through it. Toward another part of the sky, in a fainter constellation, hang not one cluster but two side by side, a matched pair of glittering groups so close together that a single sweep of the eye takes them both. Each is crowded with hot blue-white supergiants, hundreds of them, all young and all blazing, two great handfuls of blue fire flung down near one another in the dark. They lie thousands of light years away, far deeper than the little winter cluster, and through binoculars they resolve into a spill of countless blue sparks. Two glittering crowds of giant stars hung side by side in a quiet corner of the sky, a double measure of brilliance, softened by all that distance into a faint twin shimmer you could cover with a thumb. In some of the oldest, most ancient gatherings of stars, where every member should by rights have grown old and dim together, a few bright blue ones still burn as though freshly born. These are the puzzle the watchers call the stragglers, stars that seem far too young and too hot for the company they keep, glittering blue among their faded elders. The likeliest answer is a kind of renewal. Two aging stars drew together and merged, or one quietly drank in matter from a close companion and so found a second youth, blazing blue again long after its birth. Even among the eldest stars there are a few that have somehow turned young again, shining bright and blue in a crowd of soft old embers, a small, hopeful note tucked into the most ancient corners of the sky. The blue of these stars is in its way a promise of their youth. A star this hot and heavy can only stay this hot and heavy for a little while. The blue is the colour of a star still in the full flush of its strength, before age cools and swells it into something redder and softer. So whenever you find a truly blue star overhead, you're almost always looking at something young by stellar reckoning. A few million years old at most, an infant beside the ancient red embers that have glowed steadily for 10 billion years and more. The sky's bluest lights are its youngest giants, burning at the very height of their brief brilliance. There is a tenderness in that, in seeing the young stars shine their hardest, all unaware of how the long, slow ages will one day gentle them. If you could draw a great chart of all the stars there are, sorting them by their heat across the bottom and their brightness up the side, the blue supergiants would gather in a single corner, the high, hot corner, up at the top and over to the side where the brightest and the bluest belong. Most stars, the sun among them, would crowd along a broad diagonal band across the middle, the long and steady population of ordinary suns. The blue giants stand apart from that crowd, lifted up and set aside, a small bright company in the rarest quarter of the map. To picture that chart is to see the whole family of stars laid out at once, and to find the blue giants exactly where you would expect the boldest, briefest, most brilliant lives to be. At this very moment, somewhere over the turning earth, all of these beacons are shining at once. Rigel and Scythe and the three belt stars hang above someone's winter. Deneb rides high over another's summer. Spica gleams below the curving handle of the Dipper. The little blue cross stands above a southern sea. The golden pole star holds the north as faithfully as ever. They are not yours alone, and they are not only of this hour. They are burning right now over every part of the world the night has reached, each one a steady lamp above some other resting soul. To know that the same fires you have been picturing are pouring their light, this instant, across half a turning planet, is to feel the night grow wide and shared and calm, a single sky, kept lit, over everyone asleep beneath it. Set one of these stars against the whole length of human history, and the comparison is a humbling balm. A blue giant lives only a few million years, yet that is time enough for an entire civilization to rise and flourish, and be forgotten many times over, for languages to be born and lost, for whole ages of the world to pass. Everything that people have ever done, from the first scratched mark to this very night, would fit easily inside the brief life of a single one of these stars. And to the star, all of it would pass in less than a flicker. There is no smallness in that thought, only release, a reminder that the cares of one short night weigh nothing at all against such depths of time, and may safely be set down until morning. Let the heat lead you to one more quiet wonder, the speed of all that light. Out from the burning face of a blue giant pours its radiance in every direction, at the only speed light can ever travel. The fastest anything is permitted to move, and yet still so slow against the sheer size of space that it takes whole centuries to cross to us. The light leaving Rigel this very instant will not reach the Earth for over 800 years. No one alive tonight will ever see it. The brightness in your eyes right now is an old departure, and a new one is always on its way, an endless relay of light forever crossing the dark between that star and this quiet room. The giants pour out their glow without pause and without expectation, lighting a void that may hold no eyes at all, and now and then, by simple grace, lighting yours. Think of how much of that light simply travels on, unseen. For every blue star whose glow happens to fall upon a watching eye, its radiance is streaming in every other direction too, out into reaches of space where there may be nothing at all to catch it. No planet, no ocean, no upturned face. The overwhelming part of all the light these giants have ever made is still travelling outward through the emptiness, and always will be, touching nothing. There is a deep restfulness in that thought, in a generosity so vast it expects no reply and notices no absence. The stars do not shine in order to be seen. They shine because they burn, and being seen, when it happens, is simply a small grace that falls now and then on someone lying still beneath them on a night like this one. Among the blue supergiants are some so luminous and unsettled that they sit near the very limit of what a star is able to be. These rarest giants tremble at the edge of their own brilliance, shedding great shells and veils of gas in slow outbursts across the centuries, wrapping themselves in glowing clouds of their own making. They are among the most luminous stars known anywhere, so radiant that their own light strains against the gravity that holds them together. And yet even these, the most extravagant fires the galaxy can muster, hang in the deep sky as faint and harmless sparks, their grand turmoil reaching us only as a slow and stately flickering, far too distant and far too gentle ever to ruffle the calm of your night. For all their colossal size, the outer layers of these giants are extraordinarily thin. A blue supergiant has swelled so large that its substance, spread across such an enormous volume, grows wispy and tenuous near the surface. Its glowing outer reaches far less dense than the air in the room around you, a fire grown so vast that it has become, at its edges, almost a ghost of itself. The great bright globe you imagine is, toward its rim, more breath than body, a luminous haze fading softly into the dark. It is a dreamlike thought, a thing so immense and so bright, and yet so delicate at its borders that you could very nearly pass a hand through its outer glow. The largest fires are also, at their edges, the gentlest. Some of the largest are so tenuously spread that they sit near the very edge of holding together at all, their gravity barely able to keep their swollen outer layers from drifting off into space. Such stars seem almost to be evaporating at their surfaces, shedding wisps of themselves into the dark, vast and bright, and only just bound. To picture one is to picture a fire so grand it can scarcely contain its own light, gently letting its outermost edges slip away. And all of that immense, barely held grandeur reaches you as a single steady point, perfectly calm, betraying nothing of how lightly it holds its own enormous self together. A few of the very heaviest stars, having blown away their outer layers entirely on those fierce winds, end up stripped down almost to their bare burning cores, hot and small and blue, surrounded by the glowing remnants of all they have cast off. With their cool outer blanket gone, these stripped stars blaze hotter and bluer than ever, their fierce inner fire laid open to the dark. They are the elder kin of the great blue giants, the same lineage carried near its end, having spent and shed so much of themselves that only the dense glowing heart remains. To imagine such a star is to imagine a fire that has burned away its own walls, and stands at last as pure flame, naked and brilliant in the cold of space, blue beyond blue. It helps sometimes to picture one of these stars not as a fact at all, but as a place, a thing you might drift slowly toward in a dream and circle from a great safe distance. Imagine approaching a blue supergiant through the dark. First the single point swelling into a disk, then the disk into a vast blue-white globe filling the whole of your view, its surface mottled with brighter and dimmer patches, its very edge fringed with the faint shimmer of its outflowing wind. There would be no sound, only an overwhelming silent light, and the deep cold of the space between would keep its fire forever just beyond your reach. To hold the whole of such a star in your mind's eye, calmly, from far enough away that it can do you no harm, is itself a kind of deep and pleasant rest. You can leave it there, glowing, and turn softly back towards sleep. Settle that image and let a smaller, finer detail rise quietly in its place. The light of a blue supergiant is not perfectly even across its great face. Like the sun, these stars likely carry faint markings, brighter regions and dimmer ones, slow patterns shifting across the surface over days and weeks as the star turns and breathes. Astronomers detect these subtle changes from far away, reading them in the gentle rise and fall of the star's light over time. So even a single blue point overhead is a living, changing surface, never quite the same from one week to the next, turning and remaking its own great face. Nothing up there is truly static. Everything is in motion, however slow. And there is a quiet companionship in that, for so are you, breathing softly in the dark, never quite the same from one breath to the next. These giants almost always keep company with others. Stars are born in great litters, dozens or hundreds at a time, out of a single collapsing cloud, and so a blue supergiant rarely burns entirely alone. Many travel through space bound to one or more companion stars, circling a shared centre across long ages, sometimes so close that they trade material between them in slow, bright streams. Others move in loose families, scattered groups of sibling stars all born of the same gas, slowly dispersing across the galaxy over millions of years. The bright blue points overhead are, more often than not, members of households, and there is something warm in that, in knowing that even the fiercest stars are seldom solitary, but move through the dark in the gentle company of their kin. Some of those stellar pairings are intimate beyond easy picturing. Two great hot stars can orbit one another so closely that their outer layers very nearly touch, the pair swinging around their shared centre in a matter of mere days, locked in a slow embrace that will last the rest of their lives. Each pulls a little of the other's substance across the narrow gap between them, the two stars quietly shaping one another's fate. From across the immense distance, all of that intricate closeness reaches you as a single steady point of blue light, its true doubleness betrayed only by the faint, faithful dimming as one star passes before the other. The sky keeps its love stories well hidden, written in flickers almost too soft to read from so far below. A few such pairs lie just so along your line of sight that you can watch the dimming with your own unaided eye. One famous star, easy to find in the autumn sky, holds steady for a few days and then, over the course of a single evening, fades to a fraction of its brightness and slowly recovers as a darker companion drifts across its face. The old watchers, unable to explain the change, gave it an uneasy name, half wary of a star that seemed to wink. Tonight there is nothing uneasy in it at all. Only two stars circling, one stepping briefly before the other, a slow and faithful blink you could time by patience alone. The sky's quiet clockwork, ticking in plain sight for anyone who watches long enough to catch it. Let the mind widen now from single stars to the great wheel that holds them all. Every blue supergiant you can see belongs to our galaxy, the Milky Way, a vast, slow-turning disk of several 100 billion stars. The blue giants gather especially along its spiral arms, the bright lanes where new stars are still being born. Their fierce blue light is in fact part of what makes those arms glow and stand apart at all. When you look up at a band of hazy light arching across a truly dark sky, you're seeing the combined glow of countless stars in the disk of your own galaxy, seen edge-on from inside, and threaded all through it, here and there, the brilliant blue beacons of the giants, lighting the spiral from within. You live inside this great wheel, turning with it, carried along on its slow, majestic spin without ever feeling the faintest motion at all. That hazy band overhead is worth a moment's wonder all on its own, for it is the inside view of the very disk you ride within. Look at it on a truly dark night, and you are gazing edge-on through the flattened plate of the galaxy, the massed light of billions of stars too far and faint to separate, smoothed into a soft, luminous river arching from one horizon to the other. The blue giants are in there, salted through that glow, lending it some of its brightest threads. To lie back and take in that band is to see your own home from the inside, the way you might sense the shape of a great dark house by the light spilling along its hall. You're not looking up at the galaxy so much as looking around within it, from your small, still place near its rim. Remember too that every one of those countless points is a sun. Each star scattered across the night is a furnace like our own, some smaller, some unthinkably greater, and many of them very likely tended by worlds of their own turning in the dark. The blue giants are the rare bright sentinels among that uncountable host, too fierce and too brief to nurse life themselves, yet standing out like beacons among the quieter suns. To grasp that the sky is not sprinkled with mere lights, but crowded with other suns, each its own centre, is to feel the night grow vast and populous and kind. You rest beneath not a ceiling of sparks, but an immensity of distant fires, each one a world's own sun. It is the blue giants, more than any other stars, that trace the shape of those spiral arms for us. Because they are so brilliant and so short-lived, they never wander far from the lanes where they were born before their lives are over, and so they light those lanes up like lamps set along a winding road. When astronomers map where the blue giants lie, the spiral pattern of the whole galaxy slowly emerges from the scatter, drawn out in points of blue fire. The arms of the Milky Way are written, in part in the light of these brief brilliant stars, a great slow spiral sketched in blue, turning once around its centre across hundreds of millions of years. The same is true of the other great wheels scattered through the dark. When a far-off spiral galaxy is captured in a long exposure, its arms glow a delicate blue, threaded here and there with soft pink knots of glowing gas. That blue is the light of countless giant stars like these, gathered along the arms where new stars are being born, too distant to be told apart and so blending into one smooth, luminous tint. The pink knots are the clouds those giants are lighting from within. So the lovely blue swirl of a distant galaxy is, at heart, the massed glow of its youngest and brightest stars, a whole pinwheel of blue fire turning silently, far beyond the reach of any night you will ever stand beneath. Because the blue giants live and die so quickly, their light is a kind of clock for the galaxies. Where a galaxy glows blue, stars have been born there recently, for the blue ones cannot last long enough to wander far from their birthplaces. Where a galaxy shows only the soft gold of older stars, its bursts of star-making are long past. So astronomers can read the youth and the history of a whole island of suns simply from its colours. The blue regions fresh and lately kindled, the golden ones grown old and calm. The giants, by burning out so fast, become markers of the recent past, telling at a glance which corners of the universe are still busy making new light. A star's brevity, it turns out, is its usefulness. The briefest fires keep the truest time. It is worth resting for a breath on that quiet motion you cannot feel. The Earth is sweeping through space around the Sun, and the Sun is sweeping in a great slow circle around the centre of the galaxy, carrying you and everyone you have ever known along with it, at a speed beyond any machine, on a journey so long that a single lap takes hundreds of millions of years to complete. The blue supergiants are riding that very same vast carousel, each on its own long path around the galactic centre. None of it can be felt. The bed beneath you seems perfectly still, the night perfectly calm, and yet you are travelling immense distances even as you lie there preparing for sleep. There is a strange comfort in motion so smooth that it feels like stillness itself, the whole galaxy turning around you while you rest, carrying you gently along without a sound. Return to the matter these stars are made of, because it is the very same matter as everything else. A blue supergiant is built mostly from the two lightest, simplest elements in existence. The same elements that fill the Sun, the same that drift through every cloud of gas in space. In its searing core, the star slowly forges those light elements into heavier ones, the way every star does, building up the richer materials a few at a time. The very atoms in your body, the iron in your blood, the calcium in your bones, were forged in the hearts of stars something like these, and scattered into space long, long ago. You are, in the most literal sense, made of old starlight, gathered up and given a name and a breath. The blue point overhead and the warm body beneath your blanket are kin, woven from the same ancient cloth. The very first stars of all are thought to have been giants like these. In the young universe, long before the Earth or the Sun, before there was any iron or carbon anywhere at all, The first stars kindled out of the simplest gas, and they are believed to have been enormous, hot, and brilliantly blue, far heavier than most stars that form today. They lived briefly and blazed fiercely, and in their endings they forged and scattered the first heavier elements, the raw seed of every world and every living thing that would follow. The dawn of light in the cosmos was very likely a dawn of blue giants, lighting an utterly dark and empty universe for the first time. Everything since has been built, in part, from the gift of those first great fires. That kinship runs deep through the whole of the night. The giants you see are not foreign furnaces hung in an alien sky. They're part of the same long story that made the ground beneath your house, and the water in your glass, and the breath moving softly in and out of you now. Stars like these lived and ended long before the sun was ever born, and in their endings they sowed the dark with the heavier elements that would one day gather into new stars, new planets, and at last into living things able to look up and wonder at the sight. Every time you raise your eyes to a blue supergiant, some small ancestral part of you is recognizing a relative, distant, immense and burning, but family all the same, across the wide and quiet dark. Look closely at the ordinary things around you, and you will find that same starry origin everywhere. The oxygen filling your chest with each slow breath, the carbon laced through every living cell, the iron that reddens your blood, the gold of a ring, the calcium of your teeth and bones. Not one of these existed when the universe began. Every atom of them was forged in the furnaces of stars and flung into space when those stars gave way, and the heaviest, fiercest forgers of all were giants much like these. You are quite literally walking starlight. The world you touch was cooked in stellar fire and scattered long ago to settle, at last, into hands and breath and bone. The blue giants overhead are simply that same forging, still at work, far away in the dark. There is a deep equanimity in that too, in being woven from the leavings of stars that died long before you were dreamed of. Nothing in you is wasted or new-made from nothing. You are a gathering of ancient gifts, lent for a while and one day return to the same slow cycle, to be gathered again into something else. The atoms that are you tonight have been 1,000 things before, and will be 1,000 more, and the brief, warm arrangement of them that is your sleeping body is one lovely passing shape among countless others. To rest in that is to rest very deeply indeed, held and old, and entirely at home in a universe you are never separate from. Drift to the question of how such a star holds itself together at all, for the answer is a kind of perfect, ceaseless balance. A star is forever caught between two enormous forces, its own gravity crushing inward, forever trying to collapse it down to a single point, and the outward push of all the light and heat pouring from its core. For the whole of its life, these two press against each other in near-perfect equilibrium, the inward weight and the outward fire held so finely in balance that the star neither falls in upon itself nor flies apart. A blue supergiant maintains this poised standoff at a tremendous scale, its colossal gravity matched, breath for breath, by its colossal blaze. It is a thing held together by the very act of burning, and there is a deep stillness at the centre of that violent balance, the stillness of two great forces holding perfectly, endlessly even. In the very heaviest stars, it is the light itself that does the holding. Light may seem weightless, yet it carries a faint and genuine push, a pressure that ordinary things never feel, but that becomes enormous inside the most luminous stars. There, the sheer outward push of all that radiation is the main force bracing the star against its own crushing weight, holding the great body open from within by the pressure of its own glow. It is a strange and lovely thought, a star so bright that its light alone keeps it standing, propped up by the very thing it pours out. And that same outward push sets the ceiling on how heavy any star may grow, for beyond a certain mass the light blows away anything more. The brightest stars are quite literally held aloft by their own shining. Look once more toward Orion and rest in this. Even the great hunter is not fixed forever. Every star is drifting slowly through space on its own long path, and across many thousands of years those small motions slowly reshape the patterns overhead. The belt and the blue corners of Orion hold their familiar form for a very long while yet, but given time enough, the figure will loosen and change, and one day there will be no hunter there at all, only a new and different scatter of stars. The constellations are not eternal. They are a passing arrangement, a shape the drifting stars happen to make in this brief age of the world. You're seeing a pattern held just for now, lent to your own short stretch of time, which makes the sight of it tonight a quiet and particular gift. That balance, like all balances, is temporary, and its slow ending is the gentlest thing to contemplate from far enough away. When at last the core can no longer keep up its fire, the long standoff tips and the star begins the final chapters of its life, swelling, shifting colour, slowly transforming. For the most massive of these giants, that ending eventually comes as a great release of light, the star pouring out in a single brilliant flare more energy than the sun will give off across its entire existence. But every one of those endings happens unthinkably far away, scattered across the depths of space and the long reaches of time. Not one of them can reach across that gulf to touch you. From your pillow, even a star's death is only a distant brightening, soft and silent and impossibly far away. Hold that thought of the great flare gently, because it is in truth an act of creation as much as an ending. When a giant star releases itself in that final brilliance, it flings its hard-won elements out into the surrounding space. The carbon, the oxygen, the iron it spent its whole life forging, seeding the dark with the very stuff of future worlds. The clouds enriched by such endings become the cradles of new stars and new planets in their turn. So the close of one great life quietly sows the beginnings of many others. The blue giants do not simply vanish. They give themselves back, scattering their substance into the galaxy so that the long story can continue without them. There is no loss in it from this distance, only a slow turning over, an old fire becoming the seed of new ones. What a great star leaves behind, at the very centre of that final flare, is among the strangest and stillest things in all the universe. The core that once blazed collapses down into a tiny, impossibly dense remnant, a sphere no wider than a city, yet heavier than the sun, spinning quietly in the dark where the giant used to be. Some of these remnants sweep a beam of light around as they turn, like the lamp of a far lighthouse, flashing with a rhythm so precise you could keep time by it. The fiercest, briefest, most luminous stars leave behind the smallest and most faithful of timekeepers, ticking softly in the dark for ages after the great light has gone. An enormous life, distilled at last into a single steady, patient beat. And the very heaviest of the blue giants leave behind something stranger still, a place where gravity is folded so tightly upon itself that not even light can climb back out, a small dark stillness at the centre of the dark. These are nothing to fear, lying as they do across unthinkable gulfs of space. They do not reach out, do not pull at the night sky or tug at the ground beneath your bed. They simply rest where the great star once burned, holding their silence, the quietest possible end to the loudest possible life. The brightest fire the cosmos can kindle can leave behind the deepest calm, a perfect dark, perfectly still, set safely beyond every reach but wonders. These final flares are so luminous that a single one can briefly outshine its entire home galaxy, blazing with the light of billions of ordinary stars all at once. From across the universe, astronomers see these brilliant points flicker into being, and then slowly fade, each one the ending of some far-off giant, each one a beacon visible across almost unimaginable gulfs of space and time. And yet every one of them is also unimaginably distant, so far that its light takes millions or even billions of years to arrive, so far that by the time it reaches any eye, the star itself has been gone for ages beyond counting. What looks like a bright new point in the sky is really an ancient farewell, arriving long after the goodbye was spoken. From here, it is simply a faint and harmless gleam, soft against the dark. The space between the stars, where all this light travels, is itself worth a moment's quiet wonder. It is not truly empty. It is thinly strewn with gas and the very finest dust, drifting in great slow clouds between the suns. Through this whisper-thin medium, the light of the blue giants travels for centuries, and the dust along the way can faintly tint and dim that light, the way a far hill softens to a hazy blue through miles of summer air. So the colour and the brightness of a distant star are shaped a little by the long road its light has travelled, by all the thin dark matter it drifted through on its way to you. Even in the great emptiness, nothing crosses entirely untouched. Every beam of starlight arrives carrying the faint signature of its whole long journey through the dark. Picture that dust the way it sometimes appears against a bright background. Great dark rivers and curtains threaded through the glowing band of the galaxy, soft shapes of shadow where the thicker clouds block the light behind them. Within those very clouds, new stars are quietly forming, drawing themselves together out of the cold, and a few of them will grow heavy enough to become the next blue giants, the next generation of brilliant blue fires. The dark clouds are not empty absences, but full and fertile places, nurseries of starlight waiting patiently to ignite. What looks like a gap torn in the glowing river is really a cradle. Even the shadows of the sky are busy, slowly, endlessly, with the making of new light. There is a quiet symmetry in all of it that the mind can lean against. The blue giants are born in clouds of gas, and when they end, they return themselves to clouds of gas, which gather again into new stars, some of which will again grow blue and brilliant and brief. Round and round the great cycle turns, across spans of time so long that the whole history of humankind would fit unnoticed inside a single turning. Nothing is truly lost in it. Everything is passed along, reshaped, sent onward. The matter that blazes as a blue supergiant tonight has very likely blazed before, in some older star under some older sky. You're watching one moment of a wheel that has been turning since long before the Earth, and will turn long after, smooth and unhurried and complete. No one will ever travel to one of these stars, and there is a strange peace in admitting it. The distances are so enormous that even light, the swiftest thing there is, spends centuries on the journey. No ship, no traveller, no message of ours could ever cross to Rigel or to Deneb and return. And yet that unreachable farness cost you nothing, for the stars send their light to you instead, freely, asking no journey in return. You do not need to go to them. They come to you every clear night, laying their glow against your window across all those impossible miles. The one thing that can make the crossing is light, and light is enough. It brings the whole of the star to your eye and leaves you safe at home, needing to travel nowhere at all. That, in the end, is the quiet bargain of the night sky. The grandest, fiercest, most distant things in all of creation will never be near you and never need to be. Their light alone is the gift, and it arrives without fail, gentled and cooled and harmless, to be received by anyone who simply looks up. You're not missing anything by staying still. Everything the stars have to give, they give from afar, in the soft coin of light, and you may gather it in with your eyes half closed, from the warm safety of your own bed, and let the rest of that vast unreachable splendour go peacefully on without you. Let the scale fold outward one final degree. Our galaxy, with all its blue giants and its spiral arms, is only one wheel among a great many. Uncountable galaxies scattered through the universe, each its own vast turning of stars, each holding its own rare blue supergiants, burning in its own bright arms. In every one of those distant wheels, the same story is unfolding even now. Heavy stars igniting blue, living briefly and brilliantly, and seeding the dark with the makings of new worlds. The pattern repeats across the whole of creation. The same blue fire kindled again and again in galaxy after galaxy, beyond any counting at all. And the entire endless field of it hangs in a silence so complete and a distance so vast that it can only ever reach you as the softest scattering of light against the dark dome of one ordinary night. There is a deep peacefulness in being so small beneath all of that. To know that the universe is so unthinkably large, so brimming with fierce and brilliant things, and that not one of them disturbs the quiet of this single room, that the most violent fires in all of existence arrive at your window as nothing but a calm blue glimmer, is to feel, somehow, perfectly safe within it. The vastness does not threaten, it cradles. You're a small, warm point of life beneath an enormous, gentle sky, and the sky asks nothing of you, only that you rest beneath it as countless others have rested before you, while the great wheels turn and the blue giants burn far, far away. It is worth marvelling how much these few rare stars accomplish despite their scarcity. They are the merest sliver of all the suns there are, a handful among hundreds of billions, and yet they light the spiral arms, carve the great glowing clouds, forge and scatter the heavier elements, and set the very colour of a galaxy seen from afar. A small company of brilliant brief lives shapes the look and the substance of everything around them, far out of all proportion to their number. There is a quiet lesson tucked in that, in how a very few bright things can lend their light and their gifts to a whole vast dark, freely and without reckoning, and how little it takes sometimes to change the colour of an entire sky. Hold, for a breath, the sheer span of heat the universe contains. The space between the stars hovers barely above the coldest cold there is, a deep and absolute chill. The glowing face of a blue giant blazes at tens of thousands of degrees, and between those two extremes lies every temperature that has ever been. You yourself rest in a narrow, kindly band near the gentle middle of that range, warm beneath your blanket, neither frozen nor scorched, exactly as alive things must be. To know how enormous the scale is, and how snug and safe your own small place upon it is a quiet comfort all its own. The cosmos runs from the bitterest cold to the fiercest fire, and you lie cradled in the slender warm seam between, just where a body can sleep. There is even a kind of colour the eye alone can barely hold. On the very darkest nights, far from any town, a truly blue star can show its tint plainly, a cool electric note set among the warmer lights around it. The eye is not built to judge the colours of faint things well. In dim light the world drains toward grey. Yet the blue giants are bright enough, some of them, to push their colour through even so, glittering with that unmistakable cold blue where dimmer stars would only glimmer white. To catch that blue clearly, on a dark and cloudless night, is a small, quiet joy, available to anyone who looks. No telescope, no learning, only an upturned face and a little patience in the dark. Think of the whole life of one of these giants as a single candle, lit and burning down. It flares into being out of a dark cloud, blazes blue and brilliant for its few short million years, and then gives itself back to the dark from which it came, scattering its light and its substance for whatever comes next. The flame is fierce, and the flame is brief, and every part of it, the kindling, the blazing, the letting go, is exactly as it should be. There is nothing to mourn in a candle that burns down. That is simply what a candle is for. And from your pillow, the whole of that grand brief life is only a single steady point of blue, a far flame quietly burning at its own pace, content to let you rest while it does. Let your eyes soften now and simply rest on a single blue star, holding it the way you might hold the last warm coal of a fire just before sleep. You need not name it. You need not measure it or recall a single fact about it. It is enough that it is there, steady and cool and bright, pouring out its ancient light across an ocean of dark to settle, for a moment, against your closing eyes. All its heat, all its size, all its tremendous brief life, gentle by distance into one calm point, one quiet companion in the dark, asking only to be seen, and asking even that very lightly, the way a candle in a far window asks nothing of the traveller who happens to glance its way. Think, as the night deepens, of how old the light truly is that fills your eyes. Not a single blue star you can see is showing you its present self. Each is offering you its past, a glow that left long ago and has been falling toward you ever since, faithful across the centuries. You're not so much looking at the stars as receiving them, gathering in light that set out generations before tonight was ever imagined. The whole sky is a slow gift, arriving always a little late, and never once minding the lateness. There is no rush in any of it, and there need be none in you. Let the old light come. Let it find you here at rest and settle softly behind your eyes. These stars have been here through everything. They were burning before your city was built, before its first stone was laid, before the people who would lay it were born. They will go on burning, most of them, long after this one night has folded into the next, long after every worry you carried into this room has dissolved into morning and been quietly forgotten. There is a steadiness in them that has nothing to do with you, and yet everything to offer you, a constancy you can lean against, the way you lean now into the soft give of your pillow. The blue giants keep their long watch over a sleeping world, and tonight you're simply one more sleeper beneath their ancient and patient light. The same light has fallen on every watcher who ever lived. The blue of Rigel that reaches your window tonight reached the eyes of shepherds and sailors and sleepless children. Across all the centuries it has been travelling, the very same beam spreading wide enough to touch them all. Whoever has ever looked up and wondered at these stars was bathed in light that set out from the same far fires, joined to you across all that time by a single shared glow. You're the latest in a long unbroken line of upturned faces, and the giants have shone on every one of them the same. There is companionship in that, a quiet kinship with everyone who has ever rested beneath these lights. You are not the first to be soothed by them, and you will not be the last. It is fitting too that the calmest colour the sky can offer is the colour of these greatest fires. Blue is the shade of evening and of deep water, the hue the mind reaches for when it wants to rest. And it is also, by pure chance of physics, the colour the hottest stars are forced to wear. So the fiercest furnaces in the heavens happen to glow in the very tone most soothing to a human eye, their violence dressed in the gentlest of colours. There is a small grace in that coincidence, that the most powerful light the universe can make should arrive looking like the colour of calm itself, a cool blue balm settling over you as your eyes begin to close. Notice how the sky changes with the turning seasons, wheeling slowly overhead like the hand of an enormous clock. The blue giants of winter, Rigel, the belt of Orion, their bright companions, sink toward the horizon as the months pass and rise again the following year, faithful and exact. The blue-white tail star of summer climbs high in the warm nights and slips away again as the cold returns. Across a single year, the whole great wheel of bright stars turns once around you, the same patterns returning always to the same places at the same times. People once set their whole lives by them, their plantings and their voyages and their festivals. There is comfort in that return, in knowing the blue fires will come back around season after season, year after year, long after you have stopped counting them. There is a tender thought folded into all that distance, and it is a soft one, not a sad one. Because the light of these giants takes so long to cross to us, it is possible that one of the stars you see tonight has already reached the end of its life, its farewell flung out long ago and still travelling, not yet arrived. You may be looking at the steady glow of a star that is, in truth, already gone, its light continuing faithfully on, a kind of afterglow crossing the centuries to keep you company a little longer. There is nothing fearful in it. It is only the night being gentle, letting an old light linger well past its source, so that even what has ended still shines softly down on those who rest below. Our own sun will never walk the giant's path, and there is comfort in that ordinariness. It is a modest, steady star, far too light ever to blaze blue or to end in a great flare. For billions of years yet, it will simply go on shining its calm yellow-white, warming this small world without hurry or drama. The blue giants live their brief, brilliant lives, and the sun lives its long, quiet one, and both are exactly as they should be. You are the child of a gentle star, a slow and faithful one, and its unremarkable steadiness is the very thing that has let life unfold beneath it in peace. There is a quiet dignity in the ordinary, and a deep safety in a sun that takes its time. Rest now in the simple fact of their distance. Everything fierce about these stars is the scorching heat, the crushing weight, the floods of invisible light, the slow violence of their endings. All of it is held away from you by a gulf so wide that none of it can ever arrive as anything but beauty. Distance is the great softener of the universe, turning every furnace into a candle, every cataclysm into a faint and lovely gleam. You lie at the safe far end of all that immense space, gathering only the gentlest trace of it, the cool blue light that has crossed an ocean of dark to reach you, and do you no harm at all. The sky cannot touch you, it can only be beautiful at you, from far away, all night long. There is a particular peace in stars that ask nothing. The blue giants do not call to you, do not need you, do not change in the slightest whether you watch them through the night or sleep straight through till morning. They simply burn, as they have always burned, indifferent and magnificent and utterly without expectation. And that indifference, rather than feeling cold, can come to feel like the deepest kind of permission. Permission to close your eyes, to set down the whole of the day, to rest as completely as you like, knowing the great lights overhead will keep on shining with no help and no attention from you. You're released from watching. The sky will manage perfectly well on its own, as it always has. Consider one last property of their light, the gentlest of all. It warms nothing here. A blue supergiant pours out heat enough to melt worlds, yet the trace of it that reaches your window carries no warmth you could ever feel, not the faintest touch against the skin. By the time it crosses all those centuries of space, the fire has cooled to pure image, pure colour, a brightness with all its danger left behind in the dark between. You can look straight at it and feel only wonder. What a perfect thing it is, a fire you can hold in your gaze and never be burned by. The whole ferocity of it spent on the journey, so that only the loveliness arrives, soft as the light of any small lamp to rest against your eyes. The breath lengthens now, going long and slow and easy, like a tide far out at the turning. There is nothing left to understand tonight, nothing to carry forward into the morning, nothing the day will require of you. The blue stars are burning softly overhead, far beyond the roof, far beyond the weather, and their light has already done its quiet work. It has been seen for a moment by you, and that is more than enough. The rest of it may go on without you now. The giants will keep their long watch alone. You have done the only thing the night ever asked of you, which was to lie here and rest and let the old light arrive. And so the last of the night's wonders comes to rest, the simplest one of all, the one lying quietly beneath all the others. It is this, that you are here, breathing softly in the dark beneath a sky full of immense and ancient fires, and that you are entirely safe within it. The same vast forces that built the blue giants built the ground you lie upon, and the body you lie in. The same long story that lit those distant suns wrote the small warm fact of you. You belong to this universe as fully as any star, made of the same old light, held by the same old gravity, carried along on the same slow turning of the great galactic wheel. You're not separate from the splendour overhead. You're a part of it that has woken, briefly, into a single quiet life, and that can now lay that life down for the night and rest. There is no distance in the end between you and the blue stars that you cannot cross with a single soft thought, and no need to cross it at all. They are far and you are here, and both of those things are exactly right. The light has come all this way to find you, and now it has, and now you may let your eyes fall closed and keep that light glowing softly behind them, a calm blue ember to carry down into sleep. The sky will hold its place, the giants will keep their fire, and you, small and warm and finely still, have nothing left to do at all but drift down into the dark, gathered up like everything else into the long and gentle turning of it all. The journey has come to its quiet close. 101 wonders have passed through the dark above your bed, each one a far and brilliant fire, each one cooled by distance into something soft enough to rest beside. There is nothing more to reach for now, nothing more to gather in. The sky has given what it came to give, and if you are still here, drifting at the edge of sleep, another quiet journey is already waiting for you on the screen, ready whenever you next want it, or never at all. There is no need to choose tonight. It will keep the way starlight keeps, faithful across whatever distance lies between now and then. You do not need to remember a single thing, not one name, not one number, not one shining fact. Let it all loosen and slip away, the way the day's small troubles are already slipping, dissolving into the dark like breath on cold glass. Whatever stayed with you stayed because it wished to. Whatever has gone was never a weight to begin with. Let your body grow heavy now, sinking down into the bed as though the mattress were rising up to hold you. Let your hands lie open. Let the long muscles of your back and your legs unspool, one by one, with no effort from you at all. The blue stars are still burning, far overhead, far beyond the roof. They will burn all through the night without your watching. You may let them go, let your breathing slow, in and out, even and easy, each breath a little longer than the one before it. There is nothing to do, nowhere to be, no thought left to follow, only the warm dark and the soft weight of your own resting body, and the great calm sky turning slowly far above. Let the light fade behind your eyes, let the last bright point dim and soften and go. And now, 101 wonders are resting with you. Sleep now, good night.